Today, I'd like to teach you how to present results from your research. Before I do a demonstration, let me tell you a few important points about presenting results. Firstly, prepare your slides. Ensure that the headings are clear and the main points are also clear. And also watch out for font type, font size, colors, and positioning of information. These are very important for making the information clear and easily readable by the audience. Number two, rehearse and keep to the time. And above all, do not read everything on the slides. Note that the sample that I'm showing you does not include literature review and theoretical framework, which may be required in other presentations. What I'm showing you are slides which have been improved based on my students' work, Fenella, Freddie. So from this point on, I will do the demonstration as if I am Fenella. My research is on communication of cancer coping in cancer patient narratives. Today, I would like to share with you the results of my study. My study aimed to analyze the communication of cancer coping in cancer patient narratives. The objectives of my study are to, number one, identify linguistic indicators for emotional and cognitive processes in the narratives. Number two, to identify the different stages of coping with cancer. And number three, to analyze the connection between the two, whether certain processes are more prominent in some stages of coping with cancer. With that, let me share with you some important details about the method of my study. The research design is a descriptive research design, focusing on qualitative data on one variable, that is the cancer coping experiences. And the descriptive research design is important and suitable for this study because it uncovers the participants' experiences in the setting and the process of how they experience coping with cancer. And we want to know their interpretations of their experiences. Next, the text analyzed were 20 cancer patient narratives with a total word length of 18,827 words, and they came from 5 organizations. And the selection criteria, well, the narratives have to be written by the cancer survivors themselves, and it must be about cancer. We do not include articles that are written by journalists and other people. We wanted the narratives to be from the cancer patients themselves because we wanted to understand their experiences. And the narratives are taken from a number of organizations as listed here. Now, let me tell you the 2 instruments that were used in this study to guide my analysis. Firstly, the analysis framework of emotional and cognitive processes in linguistic inquiry by Pennebaker and Francis, 1999. Here you see that there are emotional processes which are divided into positive emotion words and negative emotion words. And there are also cognitive processes indicative of the thought process. And these are divided into 5 categories here with the definitions and the examples. So I use these to analyze my data for objective 1, which are the processes in the narratives. Next, the second instrument is an analysis framework taken from Kubler-Ross, 1969, and it shows the 5 stages of coping with grief, but it is applied to this case, which is coping with cancer, which is a kind of grieving because the cancer patients lose their normal way of life and might lose their life. So these are the 5 stages with the definition here, and I use this to analyze the data for objective 2 on the coping stages. Data collection procedures. First of all, to collect the data on the cancer patient narratives, I search using the keywords cancer narratives and cancer stories. These were collected during this time period here, and those relevant articles were copied and pasted into the Word document for analysis. Data analysis procedure, let me go objective by objective. For objective 1, the text files were first uploaded into the Encon software. This is to identify the top 50 frequently used words the NCON software can identify emotion and cognitive words. So these were then subsequently analyzed. For that second objective, which is on stages of coping with cancer, I read through the 20 cancer narratives and then mark the stages from denial to bargaining to acceptance. I marked them, of course, with reference to the analysis framework shown earlier. And for the third objective, I connected the results for the two objectives because I wrote the linguistic processes on the right-hand side and the coping stages on the left-hand side. I could see which process occur more frequently in certain stage, and this was later tabulated in tables. And now for the results for objective 1, linguistic indicators of emotional and cognitive processes. There were more emotional processes than cognitive process. And among the emotional processes, there were more negative words. So we get the idea that coping with cancer is a very emotional process, emotional experience, and mostly negative experiences. Interestingly, 7 of the words which were highlighted by the LIWC turned out to be both positive and negative when we analyze it in context of the cancer narratives. And these are the words here: life, time, work, new, long, over, and story. So it depends on how these words are used. And this is an advantage of the qualitative analysis over what is generated by NCON software. Here is the word list, the top 50 words. Next, objective 2 results, stages of coping. In the cancer narratives, most of them included 3 stages only, from denial that they had the cancer to experiences of depression, and finally to acceptance and coming to terms with the cancer. The depression and acceptance appeared a lot in the cancer narratives, but the anger or bargaining, it does not appear that much. And even though in Kluber-Ross framework, it appears in certain place, but here it's not definite. It could appear between then denial and depression. But all of them reached acceptance in the final stage. Bargaining was the least frequent. And interestingly, all of them began with denial when the doctor's results came back and suggested that they might have cancer. They usually deny it and say it couldn't be because I've just gone for a test, and so on. Here I show you the table of analysis for 20 texts on stages of coping. And the first stage, these are the details. The first stage, 17 out of 20 started with denial. Now, objective 3. We found a very interesting relationship here. Denial, there were a lot of cognitive words. So we think that this denial is more of a reasoning and thought process. Anger, as expected, it is an emotional stage. Bargaining, it is also a cognitive stage based on the fact that there were more words for cognitive processes than emotional processes. Depression, as expected, a lot of negative words, emotional process. Finally, acceptance, more positive words as expected, but also actually more of a cognitive process as they rationalize and come to terms with how their life is different now, or how they cope with different kinds of treatment. So this analysis, by connecting the stages with the linguistic markers, actually brought out very interesting results. So here I will just go through and just show you the different stages, which I have already described just now. Finally, for the discussion of results, the analysis of linguistic indicators in terms of emotional and cognitive processes shows that cancer patients tend to use more emotional words than cognitive words, and this supported certain findings and contradicted others. Now, within the category of emotional processes, we found more negative words than positive words. And The results again supported some findings and contradicted others. So we figure out that perhaps the inconsistent findings is linked to the stage of the disease and also the treatment and recovery, because Martino et al. 2015 studied the cancer patients when they were at different phases of the treatment. And then Owen et al. 2006, they studied the cancer survivors in community support groups to find out whether it helped them. So our study was done in retrospective because they wrote about their experiences. So all this could have led to different findings, and there's a need to study the context of the other studies to know why the results may be different, but of course we cannot always be definite. Now the main results on the stages of coping with cancer. Yes, it all begins with denial in other studies too. And the common occurrence from denial to depression acceptance, this is common and supports other findings. Depression with the highest number of negative words, yes, it is also consistent. So I have to say that our results on stages of coping confirms what we know about grieving experiences, whether it is for diseases or death of someone. The stages are similar that people go through. In conclusion, the study on cancer patients' personal story shows that coping with cancer is an emotional process characterized by negative emotions. Denial, depression, and acceptance were the most common stages in the cancer narratives. So the findings of this study actually allow people to have more knowledge and understanding of what cancer patients go through physically and emotionally. And by knowing the words they use, it actually tells us their emotional state, and this will help people around them, the healthcare workers, the family, and the carers to be more sensitive to their experiences and provide the appropriate kind of support. Thank you very much.